And welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by a man who is up 4-1 in the middle of the third period. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. Feeling pretty good about myself and my team. Bruins are rolling right now. Need to close this out tonight. And sorry about your team, man.
Yeah, it's not going great here in Tampa Bay. It was a good run, Kyle.
It's a fun series, no doubt. Got to close some games. That's the only problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. We can maybe touch on it at the end. I think about what's going on with everything, all thing hockey. We'll touch on that. Kyle, we have, as always, our most disliked show of the year. The also Go Leafs, ban for life, ban for life.
Yeah. What about the Gruden picture? Does that keep him?
Maybe if it was a couple years ago, it would have helped. But it would have worked a lot better. I think that would have gone over better. Yes, backwards hat bros. Chat is already on fire.
We're buzzing. Here we go. So everyone's here. They're gonna get upset about how we picked their team, but it's gonna be fun, and we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, just a reminder: the reason why we pick each player is specifically to annoy you. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, we don't like your team, so we want the worst possible pick.
Yes, that is the reason. Kyle, we have a mock draft to get to. As I mentioned earlier, it's always our most disliked show. We're going to do the entire first round mock draft using the PFF mock draft simulator, and it should be it's always entertaining.
Yes, it is. It's always entertaining. I guess unless you're like a Dolphins fan, you're not going to like this show that much. A couple other people here not going to like this show that much. We're not talking about your team, but we're going to get all 31 picks of the first round. If you want to go to my Twitter too, by Kyle Grondin on Twitter, I posted my big board. So if you want to follow along with my picks, see where I'm looking there, you can do that as well.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So, and should be a lot of fun. Kyle, why don't we just get into it? The way we do this, as always, is we're gonna have you pick your team, the Patriots. I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers. So luckily, this is one of those years where the Patriots are an even number and the Buccaneers are an odd number. So I'll do the odds, you do the evens.
Yes, that sounds good. So that means you start us off with the number one pick. Who are the Carolina Panthers getting with the first pick of the draft?
Yeah, well, and again, this is not who I think they will pick. This is who I would pick if I'm the Panthers. That's how we're doing this. It's solely what we would do. I think Bryce Young, he's going to be the first overall pick. I think that's just going to happen. Bryce Young's going to be it. But I had CJ Stroud as number one on my board. So CJ Stroud going to the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I can't fault it at all. CJ Stroud is my number one quarterback as well, but it's really close. I also, wouldn't be that upset for people who took Bryce Young first. I think he's a really talented player too. The size is obviously a little bit of concern for me with Bryce Young, but at the same time, I don't think there's going to be any doubts about Bryce Young's talent or CJ Stroud's talent in my book. I think they're both good prospects. Maybe not great prospects like the Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck level, but I both think they're very good prospects and will be good quarterbacks in this league as long as they stay healthy. So Stroud makes a ton of sense. He can make any throw in the book. He's dynamic. He's really good in the pocket. Good arm. Has shown that he can extend plays. He's the complete package for me in that book.
Yeah, completely agree. We don't have to. I don't know if we have to. We've done plenty of Stroud versus Bryce Young talk this month, so I don't know how much we have to continue going. Kyle, at number 2, the Houston Texans are very interesting. This is a team that Vegas doesn't know what to do with this because apparently a Reddit post said that Will Levis was going to go number 2 overall, and then that completely screwed up the betting lines. So Vegas is confused. The world is confused. It seemed like a foregone conclusion. The Texans were getting either Young or Stroud, whoever was left over. It's not a foregone conclusion at this point. There's plenty of options here as to where they could go with. Where would you go with if you're the Texans?
I think the Reddit conspiracy theory was Will Levis is going first overall.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, either way.
I love Reddit. Reddit's the best thing on the planet. It's just, complete lunatics on there. It's so fun. Anyway, but yeah, so since this is what I'm doing and not what the Texans are doing, which seems to be some tomfoolery on their part, I am going to go ahead and take Bryce Young here. I'm not reinventing the wheel. There's a good quarterback prospect available. I'm taking the good quarterback prospect early, and I'm just going to live with the results. If Bryce Young's awesome, then Bryce Young's awesome. If he's bad, then back in the quarterback market in a couple of years. But at the same time, it seems to be a lot of posturing right now from the Texans about quarterback, and it seems like they're not going to take one. And it seems I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, it would be so Texans to get Tyree Wilson here with this pick.
Yeah. That's even the crazier one. Like if at least if it's a Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. I know Jalen Carter has his, off the field stuff people are concerned about. If it's a Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, it'd be like, okay, I kind of get it. But like, I don't know. Tyree Wilson would just be a wild selection.
Yeah, interesting. You never know with the Texans. You just don't know. You can't say for sure.
Yeah. That is true. So I don't know. It just I understand that there's I guess the argument is what? So the tantalizing prospects of 2024 means it's basically punting on this season. Just get the best player available. Hope stink again. 2024 you re-up with the quarterback. I get it, but is it really like you could still stink with Bryce Young too. And if Bryce Young's not the guy, then you still just draft someone in 2024. I don't know. It just seems weird.
Yeah, I think that yeah, right. You don't. There's no law saying you have to draft. You can't draft a quarterback next year if you don't like. If it doesn't work out. I did like when you said that you started to say hope you suck next year, and then just said and got rid of the word hope because like it's the Texans. They don't have to hope for that.
Yeah, I'm banking on 3 wins or less, so it's okay.
Yeah. Speaking of the number 3, Cardinals, 3rd overall. I think it'd be a great move for the Cardinals to trade back. I don't think we're doing trades in this mock draft. I suppose we could, but in this situation, I assume if they were to trade, they would have traded by now. It seems like they're comfortable sticking at number 3, unless maybe I don't know if Will Levis goes 1st overall, and Bryce Young is still available at 3. Maybe you trade down. I'm just going to go Jalen Carter here. I think best non-quarterback on the board. If they're sticking here, I'm going with Jalen Carter.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. He's number 1 on my big board. It's got a ton of talent. Obviously, I don't know if he's going to go this high now because of everything that's happened. But I think, as long as everything off the field's good, someone's going to get this guy and be really happy because he is by far my number 1 player in this draft. I just think he's that talented. He's the complete package of defensive tackle. He's the mold of the Ndamukong Suhs. He's that dominant on the interior defensive line. I think it'd be a fantastic move if they got him at 3.
Yeah, I do wonder. To me, the bigger question is: are they going to trade down? I do wonder, like, if the Texans don't go quarterback, do they trade down?
It's possible. It has been. I mean, how long has it been told that like the Colts are really interested in Will Levis? Like forever now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there are teams now. My team even. The Patriots have been talked about being interested in Will Levis, and I don't view Levis as that level of a prospect. But if someone does view Levis as that good of a quarterback, this is basically the benchmark of where you'd have to move up to get him. It sounds like so. It'll be interesting to see if he ends up going that high. If a team's willing to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, it's very fascinating stuff. Let's talk about the Colts. Number 4. Are they going quarterback here, or are they going somewhere else?
Yeah, so a lot of options here on the board. I think it's too good to pass up. I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Richardson. He is
Mm-hmm.
15th on my big board. He's my 3rd quarterback, though. I just think, positional value is tremendous. Taking a quarterback here is too important. And I don't think this team can float in quarterback mediocrity another season. And I just think of their other needs. It's too much to, could they take a Witherspoon or a Christian Gonzalez here? Yeah, possibly, but that's a little high, I think, for one of these 2 cornerbacks. I don't think either one of these guys is a Sauce Gardner level prospect. So that's just a little too high for me. So I'm going positional value and team need and talent. The ceiling of Anthony Richardson sky high, and the Colts I have taken that risk.
Yeah, totally get it. It feels like they're going to go get a quarterback. They might even trade up a spot or 2 if they really want to get a quarterback. Anthony Richardson kind of feels like a weird fit with the Colts. It feels like that's not typically the way that they go. They're kind of very old school in their approach. So going with a very new school style quarterback. Listen, it could still happen though. I wouldn't be shocked if it does happen. It's what I would do if I was in their spot. Similar to what you said. I think he's around like top 10 on my big board, but positional value, number 3 quarterback. There's 2 quarterbacks gone. Take a quarterback. If it doesn't work out, nice thing about Richardson is in 2 years or 3 years, it won't take you long to figure out if Richardson is good or not. You're not going to have a Daniel Jones. He's been in the league for 5 years and you still don't know if he's good or not. You'll know pretty quickly if Richardson has it or he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's just, I think he really needs the kind of situation where a team's willing to be patient with him, though. You know,
Hmm.
and I don't know how patient the Colts are going to be with him. I guess is the question. Um, it really just depends. I mean, if you were in this spot with the fourth pick, if you were advising the Colts, would you advise Richardson if this is the order?
Yeah, I would. I would say the risk is worth the reward.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, it probably is going to end up being Levis based on the reports, but it would be, either way, I do think they go quarterback. I think something crazy would have to, this is the interesting spot where it's like you could just take, theoretically best player available, Will Anderson, in this spot, but I don't know. It just seems too much to pass up here.
Yeah. Number 5, I think the Seahawks certainly they're in a really good spot because I think there's a couple of prospects that they really like, and they're not all going to be gone because I don't think they're going to go quarterback with pick 5. Maybe you could go Will Levis if you wanted to, but I don't know why they would do that. They just made the playoffs. Part of me wonders, do you go after Kalijah Cansey, take a big swing? Definitely, that's something I would consider. I think they're just going to go with a safe pick here, though. I'm going to go with the safe pick, Will Anderson, pick 5. Get a good player for Seattle. They're made the playoffs last year. Want to see if they can take a next step and be a real contender in the weak NFC. Will Anderson feels like one of the highest floors of any prospect available.
Yeah. Um, yeah, he definitely feels like, at least I think you're gonna get 10 good years out of him where, the question is gonna be, can you get great years out of him? Which is fair because, I don't think he's the same level of prospect of a Miles Garrett or something like that. But I do think he could be very, very good in the NFL for a long time. They are praying Jalen Carter drops this far, right? Like
Hmm.
that, because that's, with all the problems they had last year, especially, surprisingly for them stopping the run, that Jalen Carter feels like an instant plug and play stud for them.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that, again, I don't know. We're not in the meetings, right? So maybe they don't like his off the field stuff, but I would assume that they would really love to have him.
Yeah.
And I think they
I
might get
just
him. If we're doing what we expect to happen, I'd probably expect Anderson to go at 3 and Carter to go at 5.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the next three teams for me, I think would kill for Jalen Carter to fall that far. So,
Hmm.
them being at the top of that pecking order, I think makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. All right. Number 6. Where are you going?
All right, Detroit Lions have a couple. They have quite a few defensive holes they can go to. They're, like I said, this is another team that would love if Jalen Carter falls this far. We both are just way too high on him to pass him up, and we don't really understand. We're not there with we're not investigating all of his off the field stuff, so it's unfair to make that judgment on him for us. This is where I, as someone who's a little bit higher on him than you, started to have Bijan Robinson on the watch list,
Oh,
especially with Jamal Williams, gone. It could be an interesting, just play, just, add some more juice to this already really good offense. But I'm going to go with my number one corner on the board. I'm going to take Christian Gonzalez here, who just, Witherspoon has a ton of talent. He's just, one of those grinders at corner. He's not afraid to do it all. He's not afraid to come up and hit people. Christian Gonzalez, to me, still has the highest ceiling of any corner on the board. And I think it makes a ton of sense here to Detroit. Um, they traded Okuda. They're going to need another corner anyway. I think it makes a ton of sense to go with either, if you like Witherspoon, take Witherspoon here. I have Gonzalez a little bit higher, so that's why I'm going with him.
yeah. I'm a little bit lower. I mean, I understand the hype of Gonzalez. I had him again, another one of my fringe top 10 prospects. So going here, it's one of those I would understand. If I'm in the Lions organization and it happens, I wouldn't be mad at it. But I prefer Witherspoon. I would. I prefer a guy who I can trust to come in right away and play well. And I think Gonzalez is a bit more of a developmental guy. And for the Lions, who are trying to compete right now, it's probably not the pick I would have made, even though I do understand it.
Yeah, I to be clear, I have Gonzalez sixth and Witherspoon eight. So
Right.
I like both the guys, both of them a lot. It just kind
Hmm.
of I think he kind of fits. I think he fits nicely. I think he'd be able to come in and run virtually any scheme with his size and his speed. And yeah, I just think there's a ton of value with getting a guy like Gonzalez and just hoping the upside pays off. I think he's got so much talent.
All right. Well, this has been a pretty normal mock draft so far. Let's make it less normal. This has not been a very on the sideline podcast esque mock draft. We need to get things weird a little bit with the Raiders. Are they going Devin Witherspoon? Are they going Peter Skoronsky? Will Levis potentially? All fine picks. I'm going to the highest player on my board, Kalijah Cansey. I think he's really good. And I think that, him next to Max Crosby could be a scary combination. And I don't know how you handle that situation. What side your center is blocking in that spot. Not everyone is as high on Cansey as I am, but I think he's really good. And he would just look great in the Raiders uniform. I mean, he fits the Raiders too on top of it. So give me Cansey.
Yeah, there's just way too much logic there. I was really kind of hoping he'd fall into this spot, but he makes way too much sense there. Plug and play kind of guy. I think he's also brimming with talent, and the upside there just seems too much to pass up. I think he has so much potential, and he could be a dominant interior pass rusher. And you and I both said it. We both really value interior pass rushers, so I do think that's a good get for them.
Yeah, I think, and again, people will sometimes say, well, they might need a corner more. I think people pay too much attention to needs in general with this stuff. Like, just get the best player available. The Raiders need an entire defense, basically, other than Max Crosby. So, they could upgrade anywhere. So, it's not defensive tackle. They're set there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely doesn't. They definitely need a lot more pass rushing talent. They have Max Crosby, who's obviously a stud. The Chandler Jones experiment last season did not work out, and they just don't really have a lot of talent on that defensive front that I love. Go and get what you think is the best defensive talent available at this point in the draft. I think it makes a ton of sense.
All right, pick number 8. Where are you going? Atlanta Falcons on the clock.
All right, Falcons are on the clock. Oh, man, there's so many needs with this team that I think they could go edge. This would be a interest. I have them. It'd be a little bit of a reach because I have him 12th, but Tyree Wilson makes some sense here. I could go running back. I could go, wide receiver. I do think that makes some sense for them too. Would they take back-to-back wide receivers? I am going to take the best player available and one of the couple of guys in this draft I think could be absolute stars. We've seen running backs thrive in this offense, so give me Bijan Robinson here at number
Whoa.
8. Just an insane upside for me and a guy I think it makes a ton of sense in this spot. Arthur Smith would love him instantly in this offense. He's the complete package as a running back. He can catch the ball. He makes people miss. He breaks tackles. He can run between the tackles, outside the tackle. He has top end speed. He can block. He's one of the best receiving backs I've ever seen. Give me him in this offense, and I think let him try and flourish however he can. He's a stud.
Yeah. I mean, I think this pick would be a disaster. With all due respect, I think this would be a terrible decision. I mean, I get it. It would be a great fit. Arthur Smith loves his running backs. I think it's possible this happens, but I just think that the Falcons are so far away. You pick a running back in the first round. If you're ready to compete right now and you believe that guy is going to be an elite guy, a lot of people believe it's going to be an elite guy, but I just think that this team, even if he is Derrick Henry right away, this still isn't a playoff team.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just getting a guy I think could be a star. And I think he could be an all-pro level running back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, let's take Devin Witherspoon, who's still on highest current player still on the PFF big board. Isn't the potential value of hitting on a Devin Witherspoon a lot better than the potential value of hitting on Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, I mean potentially. I mean, but if I view Robinson as that guy, I think the question with running backs has always been the positional value isn't that high, but isn't it true that if you have one of the top 5 guys that is valuable, having one of the best guys at the position is still valuable no matter what. And if I view he can be that guy and that surefire thing, then yeah, I'm taking a guy who I think can add some wins by being one of the best running backs in football.
Sure. Listen, if he ends up being elite, it would not be the worst pick. I just think it's a bit of a reach.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I did not come into the mock draft prepared to take a running back. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with this Falcons pick. I wanted to, I actually was hoping Cansey would fall to me there. But if this is how the draft falls, this is something I kind of like here, and I think he makes a ton of sense. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because I think he'd be awesome in that offense too.
Yeah. I do understand why some people would go there. I'm going to go for the Chicago Bears here, picking number 9. A lot of people are mocking, tackle to them. I could see it happening. But I'm going to go Devin Witherspoon here. Why not? I like Witherspoon a lot as a player. They could really use help defensively. We've seen teams have success building from the back. I think Witherspoon is much better than the 9th prospect available. So this feels like he fell to me here at 9.
Yeah, I think, you're getting best player available here. He's 8th on my big board. I did have one guy above him, but at the same time, I think I'm higher on him than you. Uh, but yeah, I mean, he's gonna be a really good cornerback. I don't debate that at all. He's gonna be really good, and I think he's gonna be able to step in and compete for a job right away.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Number 10,
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. Can't pick Bijan Robinson again. Where are you going?
Yeah, so there's a few different places I could go here with the Eagles. There are, I have 2 Eagles picks, so I gotta, balance this out a little bit. Um, you know, the Eagles I don't feel like they have a ton of needs, but I also feel like they need a lot of depth pieces because I think they lost some of their depth this year. I do think they need some help on the defensive line. I do think they need some help, in their secondary potentially behind some of those starters. And, I do, there's a couple guys on the offensive line. I think they could use some depth there. But overall, I'm not worried about depth right now. I'm going to take, which one of these guys? I'm going to go ahead and take Tyree Wilson here. Um,
Okay.
yeah, just give me a guy with a ton of upside. He can learn behind some of the best pass rushers in the NFL right now, and I do think they could use some defensive line depth anyway and some edge rushing depth. So I think Tyree Wilson makes a ton of sense here.
Yeah, we're approaching the area where I don't hate it. That would be a perfect spot for him to fall to. I think we know how Philadelphia loves their defensive line. I probably would have gone like an offensive lineman here though, like Peter Skoronski. I think would have been a great fit because I feel like they could. I don't know exactly where he's going to play. Probably, he's not playing tackle in that scenario if you draft him. They're pretty good there with Mulata and Johnson, but he can fit in. He can fit in. He can play guard there. But I mean, I get it. Tyree, it's a perfect scenario where you could just sort of say, similar to with Jordan Davis last year, like, hey, just do what you do well. We don't need you to, be a complete pass rusher. Just be a good run stuffing, edge rusher, and hopefully the pass rush develops.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about Wilson's game, even though it is developmental. But this is the team that would be willing to go developmental path with him because they already have the guys there. And it's just, you're playing a long game with him. This team has a really talented defense as it is already. So I think there's some logic to there. There's a couple guys I really like for this team as like scheme fits potentially. But yeah, I mean, I just, if those 2 corners are off the board, this feels like the right pick for the Eagles at this spot.
Yeah. It's a bit early for where I have him on my big board, but it's a perfect fit. Was what I'll say.
Yeah.
Number 11, Tennessee Titans. Interesting situation here where the 2 highest players I have on my board are both positions of need. I have Peter Skoronski and Quentin Johnson are the 2 highest on my board. You know what? I compare Quentin Johnson to sort of a AJ Brown type mold. I think that he's in that he's that type of player, even though a lot of other people don't necessarily agree with me. So I'm going to draft him at number 11. I think he's really good, and I think that he would fit that. Even though they don't do exactly what they did when AJ Brown was there now, I think it would work really well. You could go offensive lineman, you could go Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I want Quentin Johnson at number 11.
Yeah, that feels like an excellent fit to me. He's actually 11th on my big board, so there
Huh.
is
Mm-hmm.
perfect there. And yeah, I mean he is he is a really talented receiver, and I think people are kind of overlooking him a little bit here. Uh, you know, Great size, great speed, can run after the catch. I don't think he's the perfect wide receiver prospect, but I do think he's a very good wide receiver prospect, and he makes perfect sense for what Tennessee wants to do and how they scheme guys open in that offense. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and also I feel like this can free up. They sort of hope that Traylon Burks could fill that sort of outside receiver that can still go over the middle. This way, Traylon Burks can just sort of be the over the middle receiver. Be just primarily a slot guy who can win with physicality in that area, and you let Quentin Johnson be the outside guy who can also go over the middle. And I think that would it makes things easier for the other receivers as well in this spot.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a ton of logic to that. I can't fault it at all. The interesting to me thing for me for Tennessee is, do they play it aggressive to trade up for a quarterback, or do they draft a quarterback here at 11? And while neither of us are Will Levis guys, this is a spot where you probably have to start thinking about, do you want a quarterback on a rookie contract and take the gamble on it?
You could consider it. Absolutely, you could consider it. And I think that if one of the three that I like was still here at number 11, I pulled a trigger and I select them.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to, as we get later into this draft, do we start to consider a guy like him or a Hendon Hooker potentially too as the late round one prospect? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. All right. Pick number 12, the Houston Texans, who have Bryce Young now. Are they going for a weapon to help out Bryce Young? What are they doing here to hopefully, turn it, start the new era, the Bryce Young era here in Houston?
Yeah, I think they would really like it if Quentin Johnson fell to here. But that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and take, I have two guys that I really like in this draft at receiver too. I have them both in my top 20. You need a guy who can go pair with, with your young quarterback. So I am going to go ahead and take Jackson Smith-Njigba here. I think he's a little bit better. He can come in and just make a bunch of catches in this offense. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And they need it because they let Brandon Cooks go and they need the receiver help for their young quarterback. So give me Jackson Smith-Njigba, and they have their Bryce Young partnership ready to go.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. I think that there's a very real chance something like this does happen. I think that they do like Jackson. I would assume they would like Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I agree. Where it's like you can't get a good young quarterback and then not have talent around him. You have to also build the talent around him just to see what they have. The number one predictor of success at the NFL level when it comes to quarterbacks is how good of a situation did you get drafted into. So making the situation better. Even if he's not number 12 on your board, this is an example of that should be okay to reach for a need if you feel like it's a reach. And I think some people don't even feel like this is a reach, in which case it'd be a great pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a ton of logic there. And I just think it's a really good schematic fit for me. And, they need top end talent. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, he didn't play last year, but he's shown flashes of top end talent where he outperformed some of those guys at Ohio State that were really good last year.
Yeah. Next up on the list, the Green Bay Packers, who are now picking 13. They traded from 15 to 13, and that was part of the Aaron Rodgers trade with the Jets. I'm going back to best player available. I know a lot of people might want a weapon here for Jordan Love, mostly just for the memes. How funny would it be if they drafted a weapon finally after Aaron Rodgers leaves? That's what I'm rooting for. But if that does not happen, which I wouldn't love drafting any other receiver this early. I'm going to go Peter Skoronski. I think that he fell in this mock draft. Interestingly enough, in my opinion, all the offensive linemen fell. First offensive lineman off the board at pick 13. I would like to I think that he's someone who I'm not sure exactly where he's playing right away. Ellington Jenkins can play everywhere on the line, so you can kind of plug him in wherever. I don't know if he plays guard. How long is Bakhtiari going to play? We don't know. You can find a spot for him, though. Give me the best player available, and for me, that's Skoronski.
Yeah, there's a ton of logic there. He, knowing, if it's a Green Bay Packer, if the Green Bay Packers are taking an offensive lineman, he's going to be a star at the position. So yeah, there's a ton of logic there, and like you said, there's a lot of positional versatility with him. He's, really physical. He's a complete package almost to me. Outside of he's a little bit smaller and a little bit leaner than some of the guys I like too. So yeah, I mean, drafting him here, moving him to guard, playing him at tackle, it all makes sense for the Packers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you gotta protect Jordan Love now.
Yes, it would be funny though if they took a receiver.
Yes, yeah, that's what we're all rooting for, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Pick 14, your New England Patriots. Kyle, I know you've been thinking about this probably for months now. What would you do if Bill Belichick calls you up and says, "Hey, I need your help on this. Where should I go here?"
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different directions they could go in.
Will Levis? I have to ask you, how do you feel about PFF listing quarterback as one of the needs for the Patriots?
I mean, until Mac Jones proves it, it's understandable. So, there was a report the other day that they're interested in Will Levis. They really like Will Levis. There's people in the Patriots organization that are interested. Like I said, he is not my favorite quarterback prospect. I have a second round grade on Will Levis, but at the same time, most of us are wrong on quarterback anyway. And if
Hmm.
they like Will Levis enough to say draft him here or even trade up to draft him, I'm willing to take the chance on it. You get a rookie quarterback for 5 years, and that's insane value if he's good. So, I'd be willing to take the chance on it if they are. I'm not going Will Levis here, but we'll see if they end up trying to pull the trigger on that. It'd be interesting for sure. Um, Patriots do have quite a few needs. I think beyond quarterback. I do think they need a receiver. I do think they need a corner. I do think they need an offensive tackle. They could use probably additional edge rushing help too. So there's a few different directions I think they could possibly go in. Um, it, you know, I hadn't really determined who I wanted for this Patriots pick yet. I'm kind of just hoping one of these guys fall, whether it's Witherspoon, Gonzalez. Neither one of those guys fall. Skoronski didn't fall to me here, but I did have one guy fall, and I'm going to go ahead and take him here. He's number 7 on my big board. He is my number 1 offensive tackle. That is Paris Johnson. Um, just athletic specimen. He's a complete package. He moves so well. He's huge. I think he's a plug and play kind of guy, and I think he's really talented. So I think Paris Johnson here makes a ton of sense.
Yep. Totally agree. I think this is. I think the Jets are losing their minds in the draft room if this happens. Very upset that he could not fall one more spot, which is might be part of why it was important for the Packers to trade up that those 2 spots. But yeah, it makes sense. I had him higher than 14 on my big board, so definitely someone who really good offensive lineman, fits the position in need, and might be one of the best players available on top of it. So it's hard to have too many negatives with this one.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, if one of those 2 corners do fall, I do think they pull the trigger on that. I don't think either one of those guys are going to fall that far. I could see them taking receiver, but I just don't know if they're going to do it. That's not a historically Patriots move to take a receiver this high. And especially when I don't view, I think these are good receiver prospects, but I don't think there's any superstar receiver prospects. And if it's not one of those guys, I just don't see it. So I do think it's probably corner or tackle here. And I think Johnson makes a lot more sense for me in this spot based on how this draft plays out over a guy like Joey Porter Jr., over a guy like Keeler Ringo, over a guy like Deontay Banks. You can go down the list. So I like the spot here for Johnson.
Yeah. Here at 15, it would be fun if I picked Will Levis. That would be again for the Aaron Rodgers thing. Goes to a new team and they draft the quarterback right away in the first round. No. I don't know exactly. This is a tough one because it seems like this is the team that I would want to go with a need here. I would want to fill a hole, given the fact that Rodgers said in his press conference today he doesn't intend this to just be a one and done type thing. But who knows? Maybe they have a bad year and maybe he decides he doesn't want to play anymore, or maybe he's not young anymore. Maybe he only has one good year left in him. You want to strike what iron is hot with Aaron Rodgers and help out a position of need. Any needs that they're filling up here to me is a reach. I don't think getting a tackle out of the ones available would be smart here at 15. I'd rather get one later on. So where do I go? Realistically, I would want to trade down sort of towards the end of the first round. But if you can't find a partner, I guess just give me Dalton Kincaid. I don't think they need a tight end necessarily. They have currently CJ Uzama and also Tyler Conklin. But I don't know. I think he's a really good weapon that they could use and could help out their team. So he's the guy I'm going to end up sort of reluctantly selecting here.
Yeah, good pass catcher. I think he could play a wide receiver in year 1 too. So, I do think that makes a ton of sense. Though I guess the one thing I do have Broderick Jones 14th on my board. So is Jones someone if the Jets took Jones, are you feeling like that's too much of a reach?
Yeah, I had him kind of as a late first rounder. He doesn't have great, the advanced stats of him aren't spectacular, and there's reasons for it. Like I'm not totally concerned. I still do have him as a first rounder, but more of a late first rounder. And I would rather, to me, that's too much of a reach just to fill a need. If you're going to be a team that does it, it would be the Packers. But I'd rather get a better player, and I don't know, sign someone in free agency who can fill that need instead.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But there are a few different directions they can go in. Like you said, if one of those they're praying one of those top tackles definitely falls here, right? They want one of those top guys. But
Mhm.
if they do love Jones, if they do love Darnell Wright, I do think that's a position they could go into. But Kincaid, like you said, he's an incredibly good pass catching tight end. And I think he'd be able to play and make an impact right away, which isn't historically how tight ends work, but I do think it's something they could do.
Yeah, and I honestly think if the draft does break down this way, I think the second Skaronski goes at 13, they might just call up New England and say, "Hey, well, let's just trade a spot. We'll give you a pick," and New England would probably accept that and get the next player on their board.
Yeah. Especially, Patriots probably be okay with doing that and taking a corner or something like that. So yeah, I
Mhm.
do think there's some logic there.
Yeah, 16, almost halfway done. Kyle, who are the Washington Commanders going to select if you were the GM of their team?
All right. Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things that they could do here. I am kind of considering Osiris Torrance at this spot, but it feels a little bit reachy to me at this time. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and take, they just got a receiver in last year's first round. They got two pretty good receivers. I don't think they need to go wide receiver necessarily this spot, but I'm gonna go ahead and take, let's see here. Give me Joey Porter Jr.
Okay.
I do think they could use a defensive back, so I do think this makes some sense here. You know, they could always use some defensive help. I like Joey Porter Jr. in this spot.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with it. Again, I'm a little lower on Porter Jr. than some other people, but fine. To me, with Washington, they're one of those teams. I think drafting for need would be not the right move. I think realistically, I think if I'm them, just I would do this with a lot of teams if I'm honest, but like especially Washington. Get your big board. Whoever's highest on your big board that's still available, just draft that guy.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, I do have, Porter is my 17th prospect. So,
Hmm.
I do think it's kind of need and, positional value, value too. So I do think there's some logic there for me. But I do think they could go in a few different directions. Like at this point, once again, this is another one where is Will Levis or Hendon Hooker valuable to you? Because if you value those two guys, if they're here at this spot, I think Washington pulls the trigger.
Yeah, I would consider Will Levis here, even as someone who isn't a huge Will Levis fan. I wouldn't have hated that pick.
Yeah. Uh, getting that quarterback on that 5-year deal matters. So I wouldn't hate it at all.
Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers, number 17. Let's just, I'll run through if you joined us late, picks 1 through 16 were CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Jalen Carter, Anthony Richardson, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez, Kalijah Cansey, Bijan Robinson, Devin Witherspoon, Tyree Wilson, Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., Dalton Kincaid, and Joey Porter Jr. That's the top half of this mock draft. And again, we are doing what we would do, not necessarily what we think is going to happen. Number 17, again, I wouldn't hate Osiris Torrance here, but they definitely don't need a guard. And, while maybe I would still do it if I didn't love someone else, but there is a player who I like that I'm a lot higher on than some other people are. If I can find him on the chart right here, I'll find it eventually. I'm going Brian Branch at number 17 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Immediately, if he can become the player I think he can become, one of the best safety tandems, in the league, if not the best, with Brian Branch and now Minkah Fitzpatrick. Someone who I think does fill a need and he was the next highest player on my big board. So I'm a huge fan of his. I think that he would fit in well with the Steelers.
Yeah, I have him as a little bit of a later first round, but that being said, with the deep safety ability of Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think Branch is schematically a really nice fit. So I do think that makes a ton of sense. And, he's a tackling machine and he'd fit in right nicely with this, kind of Steelers culture, what they preach and how they want to play defense. I do think he makes a ton of sense here.
Yeah. And it would just be fun.
Yeah. He
Hmm.
feels like a Steeler, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely one of those. I feel like there's a couple of these picks that we've had, like the Tyree Wilson to the Eagles, what was it, Kalijah Cansey to the Raiders, and now Brian Branch to the Steelers. Like, yeah, those just make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it does. I think it feels like it makes too much sense not to happen. So if it does happen, we're all for it.
Yeah. Number 18, the Detroit Lions. Where did they go here? The Detroit Lions earlier on in this draft, you gave them Christian Gonzalez. Now who are you giving them here at 18?
Yeah, so Gonzalez makes a lot of sense for me there, just because they need an outside cornerback badly. Um, Lions go back to the drawing board. Could they go double up on defense, try and fix this defense and get rolling? Could they go pass catcher? I think tight end is a need for them. Michael Mayer would be interesting here too. I think they'd really like if Kincaid fell to this spot. Obviously, he didn't, so I can't go with Kincaid. Um, so I am going to go with at this point in the draft, I will take Zay Flowers. I think they need a pass catcher. I really like Zay Flowers. I think he's an incredible route runner, and I think he pairs really nicely with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen, Jamison Williams when he comes back, and I think they could have a really dynamic offense with this group.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very fascinating of the trying to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown and Zay Flowers. You might have one guy who can keep up with those guys. I'm not sure if you're going to have multiple guys. Many defenses are going to have multiple guys who can do that.
Yeah. Plus, you throw in Jamison Williams when he comes back from suspension. That's almost just unfair at some point.
Yeah, and listen, if you're good at something, they had a good offense last year. Why not focus on what you're great at? You don't always have to, work on what your weaknesses are. Sometimes get better at what you're good at. Maybe the way you don't lose games 38-35 is instead by scoring 40.
Yeah, that would certainly help. This is another team where I think you could, if this is how the draft played out, I could seriously consider quarterback here. But there are some interesting prospects that I think Detroit could take advantage of, and this is why you make some of these trades that they did, because they are going to get a couple good players in this draft that are ready to play right away.
Yeah. All right. Pick 19. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Several ways I could go. Again, they desperately need a tackle, but listen, if they went like Broderick Jones here, I wouldn't hate it. I am a little worried that there's going to be a couple more tackles off the board in the real draft, and they're still going to reach on a tackle. I don't love this edge rusher class as much as some other people do. I do like Nolan Smith a decent amount. They could go tight end. They could go Michael Mayer. Wouldn't be the worst selection in the world. And again, could get a cornerback, try to fill that Sean Murphy Bunting hole that is gone. However, I am going to do something that I would be very conflicted if this happens in real life. I think it's the right move, though. If it falls to 19, give me Will Levis. Give me the quarterback who I believe, interestingly enough, it was when we did our first mock draft, Justin Herbert was the guy neither one of us were high on, and you had him getting selected by the Patriots. So now it's kind of, it's a very similar thing happening now, selecting Will Levis. Listen, they don't have a quarterback. You have Baker Mayfield, who, okay, give him a shot, but why not have a backup plan here? If he falls to 19, this feels like it's worth the risk when you're giving up someone who realistically you don't have many great prospects left on the board at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of logic to it. Insane arm talent, can make any throw in the book. Incredible build. We just haven't seen it translate to being a good quarterback on the football field.
Right.
So if you're willing to buy into the process, see if he can turn into that great quarterback, it's worth the take. But it's just, it's too, we're not sure that's actually the case. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I do think at this point, it's worth the risk and potentially worth the reward.
Yeah. And if there's anyone I trust to, help, get a young quarterback to reach their potential, it's Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Gotta trust that guy.
I'll let you think about that all off season. So have fun with that.
Yeah. Listen, I don't. No selection here that they take that's not Will Levis is going to move the needle too much for where this franchise is currently going.
Yeah. And you know what? If he stinks and you give him a chance and he still stinks, and you just go back to the drawing board next year and you get a good quarterback prospect.
Yeah. So. That's exactly my logic. Is you get him. If next year a better quarterback is on the market, you draft that quarterback or sign that quarterback. Don't go give into the sunk cost fallacy here. Is how I would view it.
Yeah. I think that makes a ton of sense, and it's it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to fall this far, but if he does fall this far, I expect Tampa to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I'm just worried we're going to give up like a 2 feature first rounder to trade up to the 3 to draft him then.
That's how I'm feeling too. So
yeah, I think we're all hoping for that Carolina Panthers Will Levis selection.
Reddit never failed me before.
Yeah, it probably has. Number 20, I gave the Seattle Seahawks Will Anderson. So now pick 20. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily need to go edge or defensive line, which I do think is a need for Seattle. I could double up on it, but I don't think they necessarily need to do something like that. Um, could go offensive line here. I do think there's some logic to that. Could go, you know, defensive back at this spot. And I am going to go with someone I really like. He's 16th on my board, and I think he makes some sense here. I'm going to go with Osiris Torrance. Actually, you know what? Strike that. Don't take
Oh.
them. Take that. Just kidding. I do think Osiris Torrance does have some fit here, but I'm actually going to go interior. I'm going to double up on defensive line. I changed my mind. Give me Brian Bresee at this spot. Really like him as an interior defensive lineman. I do think, that's a really nice pairing with him and Will Anderson. So go ahead and give me Brian Bresee.
Yeah, I like it a lot too, and sort of like we talked about with the Jalen Carter thing of if he is there at 5, they need to bolster that interior defensive line a good chunk. Really, they need to bolster the entire defensive line. I mean, at least you got like Uchenna Nwosu and Boye Mafe on the edge. That certainly wouldn't be enough for me to not draft an edge rusher or even a second edge rusher, but like at
Yeah.
least you have some things there. But yeah, it's certainly a fit here.
Yeah, this run defense was a problem last year. They definitely need to address that and get better. And, if a guy like Carter isn't available at 5, I think Bresee is a very nice consolation at pick 20.
Yeah, completely agree. Like him a lot as a player. Number 21, we have the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, who another team that uh, I would love to give them Zay Flowers if he were to fall to number 21. I think that would just be like a perfect fit. He's exactly what they could use. But he has not fallen that far. So what can you really do? I'm thinking about this, and I think we've mentioned this guy's name a couple of times. I think I'm going to finally pull the trigger on the Osiris Torrance, getting him here at pick 21, going guard in back-to-back drafts at this point. Because now you have an interior offensive line of Zion Johnson, Corey Linsley, and Osiris Torrance. Still could use a tackle, but as a whole, not a big, help build that offensive line. Would love a third receiving option. Maybe you can get that in the, in free agency after this. Also, we have every Chargers loss, opposing team ran for 100 plus yards. That's an interesting stat. Although, again, always worth mentioning. Typically, when you lose, you do give up more rushing yards because teams rush the ball in the fourth quarter more when you're winning. But listen, the run defense is what the run defense is, but part of that is by design. I'm not going to draft, Mazzie Smith here just because it's a fit. That would be a reach for me. I would trade down and maybe try to make that happen. But as of right now, I'm getting a guy who's a player I really like.
Yeah. I do think there's a lot of logic to that. And yeah, I don't know if I'd go with guards in back-to-back drafts, but I still think they need the offensive line help, and they could bolster, just as long as you continue to protect and keep Justin Herbert healthy. I think that makes a lot of sense. Is this too much of a race for someone like Jordan Addison for you?
Yeah. But I have him as an early second round grade. He's 28th on my big board because I don't have 31 total first rounders. It's just a bit of it's a bit more of a reach than I'd be willing to take here.
Yeah. So I guess that makes some sense. I guess the one thing could be they could go with one of these defensive backs. I have a couple late round defensive backs. I think that makes sense. But overall, yeah, they always, you could always add offensive linemen, and I do think offensive line's still a need for them.
Yeah. Reggie in the chat not happy with my selection. Listen, Reggie, I don't pay as much attention to needs as other people do. I think you fill needs through free agency, get the best players through the draft.
Yeah. I think there's plenty of logic to that. So, get the best player available, and if you view him as the best player available, go get him.
Yeah. Number 22, the Baltimore Ravens. Is this where do they go Jordan Addison here?
Yeah, they do. This isn't
Mhm.
too much of a reach on my board. I have Jordan Addison 26. I think that makes sense. And you know what? They finally get off, receiver help for whoever their quarterback is. I do think there's a couple different directions they could go. I do think they can go for one of these defensive backs, whether you like a guy like Kelly Ringo, Emmanuel Forbes, Deontay Banks. Those are guys I have first round grades on. I like all those guys in this spot too. But I just think, they need a pass catcher. They need someone to fit in this, they need a receiver in this offense, and Addison is there for them.
Yeah. And the thing about them though is like the receiving the situation has been really tough, but it hasn't been for lack of trying. They have put resources into trying to make that work, and who knows, maybe they have DeAndre Hopkins. By tomorrow night.
They could. Yeah, if they traded this for DeAndre Hopkins, it's a bit of a reach, but at the same time, I think it makes some sense. So yeah, it's a, I do think that there is, however, if you need to just keep drafting receivers until you get one that's good, just keep doing it. I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, I don't think that Hopkins is going to get much value back for the Cardinals, given his contract and his age at this point.
Yeah, I would agree there.
So yeah, but and you could do both though. You could get Hopkins and Addison. We'll see. Minnesota Vikings at 23. Every now and then it just works out where a top player on your board is also a need. Top player on my board is Emmanuel Forbes. So fills a need at corner. Getting him onto roster. I know this is think about Hendon Hooker a little bit. I have seen mock drafts give Hendon Hooker the 23rd overall selection, the Vikings. There's some theories out there that maybe the Vikings will trade up to 2 to get Will Levis. I heard that as that's something that people are actually it seems like a crazy theory out there, but people are actually talking about that as a legitimate possibility. So I don't know. But in this scenario, give me my top player available, which is Forbes, who has great athleticism, a bit of a raw prospect, but definitely has sky high potential.
Yeah, I really like Forbes too. I like him in this spot. He's 24th on my board, and yeah, I mean, he is. He's a really fun player to watch, even if I don't think he's a perfect prospect. And I think he's going to be fun to watch in this defense. So yeah, I think there's a ton of logic here. This is a good pick.
Yeah. So far, chat hasn't really blown up any of our selections. We haven't angered too many people too bad.
You angered one Chargers fan. That's about it.
Yeah, so far that's pretty good. If we're only angering one Chargers fan.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think the Hendon Hooker would be interesting here. That'd be pretty fun if you took Hendon Hooker. But feels a little bit too much of a reach for me.
Yeah, a couple players I just like better. Number 24, Jacksonville Jaguars. Where did they go here? Do they go back to the edge rusher? Well, they could.
They could go back to the edge rusher well. I do like Miles Murphy. This is a good spot for him as well. It's interesting. I don't have, they could go offensive tackle at this point. Broderick Jones could probably play for them. But I am going to go with, I'm struggling with this pick here because I was hoping, this is another spot I was hoping Torrance might fall to. But I will go ahead and take Murphy here. They need the edge rush help. And Miles Murphy, I think, is kind of, would be a good fit here. I do think it makes some sense. So I'll go ahead and take him here. It feels like you might be punting on Trayvon Walker, but, you just need to add talent to where talent is needed. So he's a talented player. I think he's able to plug in and, help out this defensive line.
Yeah. First, chat from King Connor saying make that 2 Chargers fans that I've upset. Yes. Okay. Listen, Chargers fans, don't worry. I won't actually be selecting who goes 21st overall in the real draft. You don't have to. I get it. Not what you like. The Miles Murphy pick. So here's the thing. I don't hate them going edge rusher at all here. I know that there's the Trayvon Walker of, are you giving up on Trayvon Walker after 1 year? Which, if you were, what did you expect him to do year 1? You knew he was such a project when you drafted him, I would assume. I think that I wouldn't say this is giving up on him because you can have more than 2 edge rushers play football, right? I mean, we saw Arden Key was a significant factor in what the Jaguars did last year as a, kind of a rotational guy. Also got some starts in there when Walker was banged up a bit. You can get Miles Murphy 500 snaps right away. And if Trayvon Walker works, then great. Then you have 3 really good edge rushers. That's not a bad situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think there's some logic there. So, edge rusher is a premium position still. Being able to get to the quarterback is really important. However many chances it takes to figure that out, keep doing it because you need to give Josh Allen some help on the defensive line.
Yeah, and also just, maybe you don't have to have Josh Allen getting 1,000 snaps every year too. Maybe this could be an easier way to, not have to lean on him so much.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Okay, New York Giants. Do they go Hendon Hooker? No, they can't. They just paid a quarterback. They cannot go Hendon Hooker in this spot. The couple players I'm considering, but to me, I mean, again, Giants are kind of another one of those teams. Despite making the playoffs and winning a playoff game last year, I still feel like they should just draft best player available and not think about need too much. But best player available also fits a need for me in this scenario. Deontay Banks, really like him a lot as a corner. Think he could help them out a lot, and they could use a corner. So works both ways there.
Yeah, I have him as a late first rounder. This would be a really good pick for them. So yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Too much sense. I do think that, whether it's Forbes, whether it's Banks, or somebody else, I do think a corner really fits in this spot. So this is a good pick for the Giants. It fits need and it's also positional value because corners are important.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how the Giants could screw this pick up. I feel like they're pretty good either way.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, the one thing would, I don't know. I think they'd like one of these receivers to fall here, right? That's probably what they'd
Hmm.
really like. But at the same time, corner's not a bad spot here either.
Yeah. Do you think they consider trading up to get a receiver?
Yeah, yeah, why not? I definitely think you can consider it. If you can move up to a 16, 17, 18, I definitely think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think the issue is just like, we kind of like, there isn't 31 first rounders in this class really. So it's like, what do you, if you do trade up, are you going to get a team that's willing to trade down? Is probably that's it's probably going to take more than it typically would in a regular draft.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that cuz I mean, are you willing to give up a future first potentially to move up, 6 spots in the late first round? So, um yeah, that's a tough spot.
Yeah. Okay. Next up on the board is the Dallas Cowboys. Your Dallas Cowboys, Kyle. Who would you select if you are Jerry Jones for a day?
Not my Dallas Cowboys, but there's some interesting spots here, prospects here that I think could be really good for the Cowboys. I think Mayer makes a ton of sense, but with these offensive tackle prospects still on the board, and I think offensive line still in need for this team too, I'm gonna just go ahead and take Broderick Jones. I like Jones in
Hmm.
this spot. Really athletic, can get out and run. Offensive tackle. You can run a ton of screens in this offense with Broderick Jones in there. I really like him in this spot. So give me here to the Cowboys.
Yeah. How does he fit? I have no idea, but I still like to pick. Right? It's just one of those like,
Yeah.
let's just get a good player. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he's here in this spot, I mean, like you probably could say like a Darnell Wright's a better fit right now, just because he's ready to plug in and play a right tackle. But at the same time, like I just think Jones's talent's off the charts. And if Jones is here at this spot, I think he could, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the best tackle in this draft 3, 4 years from now. He's just got insane talent and insane ability.
Yeah, has a ton of upside. There, you're right. There is the question of just when will he reach that? But hey, now he doesn't have to start right away too. He could sort of be a backup, and then in 3 games when Tyron Smith gets hurt, then he comes in and plays.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes too much sense. So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I like him in this spot.
Yeah, I'm a fan as well. The Buffalo Bills next up on the clock here at pick 27. Again, Bills are weird where it's like, I don't, I was going to go tackle if you didn't, because I feel like they could use I was going to go Project Jones if you didn't. So, they could have gone there. I saw some people arguing in the chat earlier about they don't need a corner. You have Tre'Davious White and Kair Elam, but the reality is you always need a corner. If you haven't, it's sort of like in baseball to say if you have enough pitching, go out and get some more. If you have enough corners, go out and get some more. Is how I view it. They could also use an edge rusher, and to me, I'm kind of torn between those two. For me, I have Cam Smith and Nolan Smith similarly on my they're similarly rated. I do have Nolan Smith as a bit of a higher prospect though, so I'll just get him. He's gotten Von Miller comparisons, so now he can play with Von Miller. He'll get snaps, right? He's not going to be an 1,000 snap guy right away. You wouldn't want him as an 1,000 snap guy right away. Let him do what he's good at. You don't need him to be a complete edge rusher right away. You could just let him kind of do what he does well. That's what I would like about this pick, and I think he would fit Buffalo well. Again, they don't need an edge rusher, but he's going to get snaps if he's there. Whoever the guy that if they don't draft him, whoever they would have as that player in the depth chart would still probably get 400, 500 snaps. So might as well have Nolan Smith be that guy.
He's such a wild card for me in this draft because I do have him as a second rounder, and he's getting Miller comparisons, Hassan Reddick comparisons, even some Michael Parsons comparisons, just for the unique player he is.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far, but like obviously he's really, really talented. I'm just not sure where he plays given his size and stature and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be really interesting, but I'd really like to see him in this Buffalo defense because they already have so many good players. You can kind of move him around and be tricky with him, and I think that'd be really fun to see with his talent.
Yeah, and again for Buffalo, they're another one of those teams where it's like I don't think they're a disaster anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, they could keep continue to upgrade at corner until they feel really good about it. really good about their cornerback room because it wasn't good last year. But at the same time, if you're hoping those guys get better, then yeah, you can go in a situation where you're taking a risk here. You're taking a flyer on somebody, and this would definitely be a flyer, high risk, high reward player.
Yeah. Number 28, Cincinnati Bengals. Where did they go?
Michael Mayer.
Okay. Easy.
That's it.
Just run the card in.
Yeah, this is best case scenario I think for the Bengals, unless something like crazy, like I know how you feel about first round running backs. He's not going to fall this far just because too many people like him that much, and he's one of the best players I think on a lot of people's big boards. A Bijan Robinson would be a no doubt, perfect selection, but Mayer makes a lot of sense. Plug and play guy, go and make a bunch of catches for this team right away.
Yeah, I like this fit a lot. Here's my question: why does everyone keep mocking running back to the Bengals? They have Joe Mixon. It's already not a position of need, and it's running backs in the first round. I don't get it.
Well, Mixon's thing from this offseason.
Oh wait, what
Didn't
happened?
he,
Did I miss something?
didn't he have like police at his home or something like that?
Oh, maybe I missed this. Okay, well, some job I'm doing covering the NFL.
I thought there was something that happened, but I can't find anything on it right now. But uh, you know, I'll look at that. But I have seen, the question on is Joe Mixon on the team next year.
Okay, well, okay, then I would understand it. Okay, I didn't. I think I remember hearing that there was like some scandal. I didn't realize it was serious enough that like that something like would be happening. So okay, understood there. Then I kind of get it, but I still would rather draft a running back. You know me. I'd rather give me Dwayne McBride later on.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints here at pick 29. I had a player. All right. Yeah, I'll just go. Dude, again, I don't know. They're in a weird spot where it's like part of me wants to go corner. I think I'm just going to go best player available. I'm going to go corner, which I think will upset Saints fans. Give me Cam Smith here because they have Marshawn Lattimore, who you trust, but then it's like Alante Taylor, Paulson Adebo, Bradley Roby. How much of those guys do you really trust? Maybe one of them will come through and be good next year, but again, they like to play three corners a lot, so you're going to need a third guy. Just give me another guy in the room. I think he would fit that team well, and I think he's the best player available. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, if you like Smith, this is a good spot for him. Whoever we mock to the Saints is going to be wrong because they're going to pick something weird. That's basically
Right.
how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another team where I don't know. I think they'd like one of these tackle, or I think they'd like an interior offensive lineman. But outside, I just don't love the interior offensive lineman in this draft that much. So I think it's a tough spot for them.
Yeah. That's just there's needs, but they don't, it's one of those teams where it's like I'm not gonna reach for a need. Definitely a team that I could see trading down, especially
Yeah,
like if someone wants Hendon Hooker. To me, this feels like a perfect situation.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be an interesting Hendon Hooker spot for sure.
Yeah, and someone said you passed on Van Ness for the Saints. I'm not a huge Van Ness guy, but he totally would fit the Saints. Like that's what they would draft Lucas Van Ness in a heartbeat if he's still available at 29.
Yeah, that definitely feels like something they would do.
Yeah. So again, I know it's going to upset Saints fans. Listen, he's my favorite player on the board still. That's why I'm doing it.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I like him too. I have him as a
Mhm.
second rounder, but at the same time, I like his game too. Which brings us to the Eagles, who I took edge rusher with Tyree Wilson in the first
Mhm.
round. Um, and I'm gonna double up on defense here and take my favorite corner available. I'm gonna go with Ringo. I'm gonna take Ringo here at this spot. Give you some depth here. Give you some insurance in case one of those guys leave between Slay and Bradbury next year. And I think he's ready to go. So yeah, give me Ringo to the Eagles.
Reach.
I like him. I still believe in the talent. I think there's an insane amount of upside with this game. The physical tools I think are insane. And he's going to learn behind two really good corners too. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's one of the the Eagles, if they do this, they're really buying on athleticism with Ringo and with Wilson in this mock draft.
Yeah, and with the amount of good defenders they already have, I do think that makes some sense too. Take a couple swings for the fences and maybe have a couple stars to add to that defense.
Yeah, I could see it. I definitely could see it. It's very fascinating. I'm pretty sure the Eagles wouldn't do this. I know they're a pretty analytically inclined team, so I feel like this isn't what they would do. But we're not predicting what they'll do. We're saying what you would do, and it's one of those things where this could be a disastrous draft where they get nobody out of this, or it could be a draft where you end up with two stars and look like and win a Super Bowl because of it. It's that big of a swing.
Yeah. I mean, it really could turn out that way. Like I said, this is another team. Don't love the interior offensive lineman. I do think they could add some interior offensive line depth. Maybe add someone to be eventually a Jason Kelsey replacement. Um, you know, I could see them if Bijan Robinson falls to 10, taking Bijan Robinson. But yeah, I mean, with a few different needs, a lot of their needs still feel like mostly depth to me. So I'm taking the swing on the guy I think is best player available.
Yeah, sure. I get it because again, you like Ringo. It makes sense. Number 31, the last pick of the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs. Where do they go here? Do they go with a tackle? Definitely something you could consider in this spot. I'm not going to have them do that though. I am going to. I think what I'm going to do is listen. Um, run defense was really good in the Super Bowl, but was kind of up and down last season. I think getting a good run defender to play next to Chris Jones could really make things just impossible, make it almost impossible to run against them. With the great linebackers that they have. Mazzy Smith on the board. I have him as he's one of the three first rounders I have left. Hendon Hooker, who I'm not going to pull a Chris Collinsworth and select him to the Chiefs in a mock draft at pick 31. Jack Campbell is my other first rounder, which again, Chiefs can kind of afford to go with need a little bit. Give me Mazzy Smith, who I just think that would be a really good fit.
Yeah, I do think there's some logic there. Plug and play, sort of, plug and play kind of player. I guess the one thing would be like, could like a Darnell Wright make some sense here? Just keep adding to that offensive line, addressing that right tackle thing. I think that makes sense too. But interior defensive line is also really important in stopping the run, and they've kind of neglected it. So I think that makes sense too.
Yeah, and I kind of like Darian Kennard, who they drafted last year. I think he could end up being a pretty solid player for them. So like I'm to me, well, I could totally see a Darnell Wright, and again, a lot of people are higher on him than I am. So if that happens, then I could see it. But I don't think that the Chiefs have to go tackle here if they like a different player. And I like Mazzy Smith. Again, if Broderick Jones for me is here at 31, then I'm rushing the card and I'm making that happen. But I just like Smith better as a player.
Yeah, yeah, I can get that. So yeah, I think it makes some sense, and that is our first round. So good stuff there.
Yeah. A lot of people are, I would bet my house they take Harrison or Wright if they are there. Listen, I don't disagree. I think that that's what they would do. I'm not predicting what they would do. I'm saying what I would do.
Yeah, yeah. I have Harrison 23rd on my board. I have Wright as a early second rounder. So I think both those guys make sense there in that spot. Um, I guess I yeah. I mean, I think either of those guys would make sense for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating with this stuff, but I don't know. I think Chiefs fans in general just aren't a big fan of my opinions on their tackle situation after the whole
uh,
Jawan Taylor's debacle.
yeah, way overpaid.
Yes, thank you. At least someone agrees with me. Yeah. Okay, Kyle. That is our. I guess a couple other players just to mention that I didn't end up selecting guys like Hendon Hooker, Jack Campbell, Dewan Jones, Darnell Wright, or a couple of guys that if the board goes down differently, I think maybe could be considered first round players. Like Hendon Hooker and Jack Campbell, I have first round grades on. It just didn't break down that way. Wouldn't hate it in specific spots. Do you have anyone else that you maybe would have drafted in the first round that just happened to not go?
Yeah, I guess my other guys in my top 32 that weren't taken in our top 31 mock draft. Anton Harrison, like I said, 23rd. Think he makes
Mhm.
some sense. I have Lucas Van Ness 25th. I think he would make some sense for some teams. I think if I went offensive line or somewhere else earlier for the Eagles, he's a guy I would have considered there at pick 30. Antonio Johnson, the safety, I think is a good box safety. I think he makes some sense in a few different spots. I have Jack Campbell as well, and Will McDonald the fourth is someone I considered along with, once again, I think Hendon Hooker is someone going to be considered for a late first rounder, potentially a team moving up. And yeah, I think that makes some sense.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. I have to say, might be our least controversial mock draft ever.
There was a few controversial ones I think people didn't like, but at the most part, I think they made some sense. And I don't think that this is a. I don't know. This doesn't feel like it's going to be that controversial of a draft. Does it feel controversial to you?
Or the mock draft or the actual draft?
The actual draft.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see what the Texans do.
That's the one that's going to throw the entire thing for a loop. Because if they take Tyree Wilson,
Mhm.
the pitchforks will be ready for everybody.
I hope it happens. Let's make something crazy. I mean, it's funny. I did a reaction to a Peter Strager mock draft. I'm not sure if it's out yet or not. But he had like the Texans trading up to 2 to get Will Levis, and I'm like, okay, this is just crazy. This is they say Texans the Colts trading up to 2 to get Will Levis, and I'm like, okay, never gonna happen. That's absurd. Now that doesn't even seem like that's the craziest possible outcome to happen here.
Yeah. Especially all these teams now saying that they like Will Levis. Someone's going to trade up and take him. It
Uh
just seems
huh.
like it's inevitable.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey Saints, maybe you want him.
Yeah. The interesting one to me is it seems like Stroud's on his way down,
Uh huh.
and some of it seems a little absurd. So I guess I wouldn't be too
Doesn't test
shocked if,
well.
yeah, exactly. So it sounds like to me Stroud is available for whoever wants him.
Yeah. Also, Reich is going to take Levis if he is there. That is another bet the house moment to me. Be careful with betting the house. We don't want we don't want anyone to lose their houses here.
Yeah. Uh, I would agree with that. Don't go homeless.
Yeah. Yeah. Please be careful. Kyle. I said we'd do a little bit of hockey talk, so let's do that. But first, let them know you can find us on Twitter before we get into that.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Ronan, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course. If you like audio only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, check out the audio only feed. Just search On the Silent Podcast. It should be available. Kyle, how does it feel to have a hockey team that things are going well right now?
Pretty good. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. We went down to Florida. We went down to Sunrise. We kicked some ass for 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Felt great about those 2 performances. Taylor Hall is buzzing right now. Taylor Hall's the best third line right winger of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just got so much talent. And, you go through the list and they've managed to weather the storm where now Patrice Bergeron is possibly coming back tonight. I haven't checked the final reports. It sounds like he's coming back. David Krejci could be on his way back soon, hopefully by round 2. So feel good about those 2. Really wanted you to take this series to 7 games so that we can, get a little bit of rest and get even healthier. But feel good about the way we're playing against Florida. I thought they looked soft the first 2 games. They upped the physicality a little bit more. They played a little more aggressive. Charlie McAvoy looks like a star. Feel good about the Bruins now at this spot.
How much do you hate Matthew Tkachuk right now?
Oh, that guy! I hated him before this series. That guy
Uh-huh.
sucks.
Yeah.
Like how? Just loser mentality. I can't stand that guy. He can get hit by a Mack truck for all I care.
Wow,
Just
Kyle. Okay, well let's relax a little bit there. But yeah, no, definitely one of the ultimate. One of the great heels. No Brad Marchand, but he's up there.
uh, yeah, just very very easily unlikable. He's not on the list with like Matthew Cook and Tom Wilson for me, but he's getting closer.
Yeah, we'll see. Give him time. He's young.
Yeah. Um, just, go ahead and start cross-checking the goalie because you're upset. Like, get out of here, man. Can't stand the guy.
Yeah, insane. No. Yeah. Listen, Kyle. We're trying our best to make the series long. Okay, it's not going great. The Tampa Bay Lightning. I was at Game 3 when they blew it and lost at the end, and I was like, okay, and then they were at 4-1. Game 4, I'm like, okay, man, I really chose the wrong game to go to. Turns out I chose the right one. Turns out that was the better of the 2.
Yeah, your inability to hold on to leads. I was talking to your brother about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of laid it out right, and it's what Toronto's doing. Your defense is injured right now. One of the
Mm-hmm.
great things about Tampa for so many years is they had these big defensemen. They're going to clear out space in front of Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky's one weakness is that when you throw pucks at him from the point, he doesn't track it as well when there's traffic in front of him. And when you don't have those big defensemen clearing out space, it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I think if I really wanted to be salty, I could say the MVP of the series is Michael Bunting, but I won't go there. Won't say it. No, I mean they're missing Eric Chernak, who obviously was hit by hurt due to an illegal hit, but it's also like previous Lightning teams could withstand key injuries and still do well. This team can't. Losing Ryan McDonough is super impactful, and if Vasilevsky's having a bad series, I mean, if Vasilevsky can't even get to has a save percentage of what below 850, like you're just not winning the series.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. So it's just great teams, like you said, withstand a lot of you know stuff, and
Uh huh.
it's kind of my Memphis Grizzlies argument for the NBA too. If Steve Chernak is the reason you're not winning in the cup, then you probably weren't a cup contender. That's
How
just
much
kind
should
of
you don't
the
even know his name? Calling him Steve Chernak.
wow. What did I say? Wow, I'm losing it.
Yeah,
What's
Eric
his name?
Chernak.
Eric Chernak. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
If
you're good.
Chernak's not available, I was thinking Steven Adams for some reason because the Memphis
Gotcha.
Grizzlies tangent.
Mhm.
If Chernak's not available, and you're probably not a cup contender if you can't win because Chernak's hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, they needed that. That's just the thing is their margin for error was so low this season, and that's crushed it. Toronto's a better team. I thought Toronto was going to win. With the exception of the 2 days after Game 1, I felt pretty confident the entire time Toronto was going to win the series. But yeah, it's disappointing the way that they've lost it. Some good hockey going on though. And part of me is like, you know what? That Game 4 was so devastating. I'm almost not even mad because it's almost just like it was just like so like brutal of a way to lose. I'm almost like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you've
Hockey's
also
stupid anyway.
you had your fair share of wins too.
We did.
So
Yeah, it was a good. I can't complain too much.
yeah, you still got a lot of the Cups or the Bolts have some pent up favorability, I think, in your book.
Yeah, but that's the weird thing about sports, right? Is like, and you've experienced this with your teams, is okay, you want to see your team win a championship so bad, and then it finally happens, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe that they finally did this. But then it always keeps continuing. It never ends. You then go back to losing and now wanting to see your team win again, and your team continuously loses. That's just the sort of the beauty of sports. It's designed to break your heart. There's 32 teams every year, and only one of them wins every year. And that's the fun of it. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Simmons that used to say there used to be a 5-year grace period. I think that
Mhm.
5-year grace period is now dead. You want to win
Okay.
all the time. We're
Uh-huh.
we're too impatient as a society. In our
Mhm.
TikTok generation, we all want to dominate all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I do have to say, if this happened before the Lightning had won a Stanley Cup, I would not be taking it as well.
John Cooper would be fired tomorrow.
Yeah,
All that.
trade
Yeah,
Stamkos, fire Cooper. Those have already be back.
yeah. You can probably find that on Reddit if you look hard enough.
I'm sure. I don't think you have to look that hard. I think that people get very upset very quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also like, oh no, this is such a bummer. My team, it's now going to be 2 straight years without winning a Stanley Cup. I'm going to have to watch my baseball team. Has the best record in the league right now. What a bummer.
Yeah, that's true. Your boys are buzzing, so
Uh
you're
huh.
gonna be
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, I mean, it always stinks to lose.
Hmm.
It'd be interesting. Tampa's got to rebuild some of that depth. It just feels like right now. I thought they'd be able to overcome some of it. They've kind of changed their style of play to overcome some of their loss of depth, but
Hmm.
they just feel a little too thin right now.
Yeah, they need to get defense. I mean, Ian Cole was such a terrible signing. He's been a mess. So they need defensive depth. But yeah, Jim and Toronto's just like Toronto's the weirdest franchise because they have some fans that are like legitimately like great, like they're so passionate and they know the game so well, and it is the hub of hockey. But then like there's some people that are just like, how are you this passionate and also this stupid?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my
I,
review of Toronto sports fans in general.
I've done my fair share of Toronto hating, so I
Uh,
don't need to get further into it.
How do you feel about I mean, this is the pressure has to be on, right? I mean, the greatest season of all time. This would be the most devastating loss in Bruins history, potentially losing to, and you've lost some finals appearances. Losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 2 would be just heartbreaking for you.
Losing to those guys would definitely stink. I don't know if I'll ever have anything beat the Chicago Blackhawks 2 goals in 29 seconds or whatever it
Hmm.
was, but this would be pretty devastating.
Yeah, but at least that one, I guess you could say, like most of those players still, because that was right after what year? That was right after 2011, right?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, so at least you had that, but I don't know. You lose bragging rights forever, though. No one will say, oh, 4-1. Well, what happened in 2023?
Yeah, especially if they go on and win the damn thing, which is possible because I still think these
Oh
three
yeah,
teams are the best three teams, which is annoying.
yeah.
Stupid NHL playoff format.
I kind of like it, but I get why people don't. Yeah, but no, it's been a great playoffs so far.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of exciting games, a lot of overtime.
Hmm.
Um, it's been fun. It's been really fun. Been watching a lot of it, so it's gonna be good stuff.
Yeah, Kyle. Well, I'll root for your Bruins the rest of the way. At least to get past Toronto.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm
Hmm.
surprised
Yeah,
you're gonna root for the Bruins. That's not a very Tampa Bay Lightning thing to do.
I know. I've always been weird with like Boston sports in general. I've never hated them the way I should. The Red Sox hate those guys, but everything else, that's just because I grew up, with when you go to Rays games, it's like 80% Red Sox fans. At least with the other sports, we can like
We're
get it
also
like 50-50.
obnoxious too, which doesn't help.
Yeah, definitely. And again, Boston sports fans are another one of those. Like, I feel like every time I have an interaction like with a Boston sports fan, it's great. But then it's like the guy who's in a section over who I can still hear shouting. That's what gives you guys a bad name.
Yeah, 10% of every sports group is stupid,
Uh
especially the
huh.
bigger ones.
Yeah. Right. Just Boston sports fans are louder. That's the issue.
Yeah, same thing with
Hmm.
New York. Same thing with Toronto.
Hmm.
There's the idiots are always the loudest.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good to remember that stuff. Yeah, that's our show. That is Hockey Talk. We'll talk in a week as we talk about the Panthers and Lightning both coming back to win their series and the dramatic game round 2 matchup there. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Uh, no, looking forward to the draft tomorrow. This should be good stuff.
Hmm. Where can I find
Don't
your takes on the draft?
I guess I'll be on Twitter. I'll probably be on
Okay.
Twitter reacting to it at by Kyle Gronin. If
Hmm.
you want to give me a follow, I'll have I'll be laughing at the Texans like the rest of us. So make sure to log on for that.
Yeah. Again, I should have mentioned this earlier on, but on this channel, I'm going to be having videos constantly throughout the draft. So every first round selection, I should have a video out about that. I also, the weekend after the draft, I make a recap of every single team. So if you're, regardless of how boring your team drafted, I'll still have a video about your team, multiple videos about your team. So definitely make sure you're subscribed here. And yeah, Kyle, that's it. That's your
All
show.
right. Good stuff. Let's get out of here. Go Bruins. Make it
Yes,
happen.
let's get out of here. Go Lightning. Come on, we still got a chance. So let's at least make Toronto fans a little bit sad for one more game. Thank you to everybody for listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.